Okay, third graders, so we are today going to be moving on from Module 1. We have spent the last about 9 weeks working on multiplication and division, and today we're going to move on to something slightly different. So we're going to be talking about time and telling time for the next several days. Now, let's think about this. It takes my daughter, Emma, about 5 seconds to tie one of her shoes. Does that take very long? Is that a very long amount of time? Mm-mm. Do you know how long a second really is? It's pretty short, isn't it? So let's see how long 5 seconds is so we can know how long that is, okay? Are you ready? So I'm going to start my stopwatch. Now I'm going to use my phone because that's the nice thing. We have stopwatches in our phones. So we're going to stop it when it gets to the 5. Oop. And we watch it. And we stop. So 5 seconds was pretty fast, wasn't it? It went by really fast. But what about 40 seconds? What if she was tying 8 shoes? How long is 40 seconds? And we'll sit there and we've got 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, 30 seconds, 35 seconds, and 40 seconds. So seconds are pretty small units of time. Okay, they're what we would call a unit of time. They're how we measure time. They're smaller than minutes. They're not very long. So we don't use them to measure very long amounts of time. We use them to measure very short amounts of times. So if we think about this, some other things that we might measure in seconds might be things like walking across the room, or maybe singing our ABCs. Things that are really, really short, that don't take us very long. Now, Mrs. Gillens used a tool to help us measure our seconds a minute ago. That tool was called a stopwatch. And it's a tool that we can use to measure time, okay? And I started it and I stopped it to measure just how much time had gone by. Had a couple buttons. It had the start button and the stop button, okay? Now, when I stopped my stopwatch here, did time stop, or did I just stop measuring time? Time didn't stop, right? Time keeps going, but I had stopped measuring the time at that moment. Time is what we call continuous. So time is what we would call continuous. It just keeps going on and on and on. It doesn't ever stop, okay? Time doesn't ever go backwards. It's always moving forward. However, we can use things such as clocks, like this clock right here, stopwatches, digital clocks to help us measure certain periods of time. Now, there's another unit of time that we use. It's a little bit longer than a second, okay? And that's a minute. Minutes are longer than seconds, so I'm going to start my stopwatch, and we're going to sit here for 1 minute to see how long a minute is compared to those seconds that we measured a minute ago. There's 10 seconds. "20 seconds. "30 seconds. "40 seconds. "50 seconds. "1 minute. minute. Think about that. How long did a minute feel? It felt a lot longer than our second that we had, okay? Now, do you think that minute felt longer because we were sitting there, or slower because we were sitting there watching the clock? Or did it seem so much faster? When we're just watching the clock, time seems to take longer, doesn't it? When it really doesn't change. How long a minute feels really depends on what we're doing. So let's think about some things we could do in a minute. Maybe if it's something like brushing your teeth, or touching your toes 30 times, or jumping up and down 15 times, or working on math facts. There are certain things that take us a little bit longer. Now, we could use a stopwatch to help us measure how many minutes it's going to take to get dark outside. But is that going to take a long time? Probably. Let's see. So I start it, and it's going. Should I keep going, guys? If we look outside, you can see it's pretty sunny right now, isn't it? Do I keep going? Now, what if I stopped my stopwatch? Imagine that I measure how long it takes for everybody to sit in this classroom and turn, or sit at home and turn 10 years old. For some of you who are 10, that's not going to take very long, but for the majority of us, is a stopwatch going to be a very good tool to do that? No, I would be sitting there a really long time. It's better, a stopwatch is not a good tool for using long amounts of time. It's a better tool to use for very short amounts of time, a few seconds, maybe a minute. So boys and girls, think about this, okay? Telling time is continuous. Remember, time is continuous. That means it keeps on going and going. Seconds and minutes are different intervals we use to measure our time. Seconds are fast. Minutes are a little bit longer. Think about seconds and minutes. So if I had somebody who did something in 10 seconds and somebody who did something in 15 seconds, the person who did it in 10 did it faster, didn't they? You're going to go and practice working on some time things, and then you're going to have an assignment to do in part 2. And if you have some questions, let Mr. Rush or I know. Thanks.